vegetable juice. We fuck everyone. And I line my pockets with the bookie with another 20,000. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Life is great.
And we are back, and today we're going to talk about the juice. You got Jorge Navarro here. You've got his obnoxious owner wearing jean shorts. Navarro says that's how we do it. We fuck everyone. The obnoxious owner, I line my pockets with another 20,000. They're at a bar. They're watching their horse win. And there are plenty of people who speculate that this video here actually caused the latest big drug crackdown in horse racing. We're going to start this off by taking a look at the very first major drug crackdown in horse racing history. And it happened in England, and it was triggered by the legendary trainer George Lambton. He was like this college-educated aristocrat, actually rode in the Grand National as a steeplechase jockey, was a top trainer in Europe. As a trainer, he won a couple of Epsom Derbies, which was the most prestigious race in the world at the time, basically the English Derby. Champion trainer in Europe several times. So Lambton was certainly a great trainer, and he was very well respected, but this is what he writes here. Lambton writes, in 1896, doping was in its infancy, and it was not until about 1900 that it really began to be a serious menace to horse racing. Even then, although there were hints of its wonderful effects, few people knew much about it or really believed in it. He continues, after 1900, this horrible practice increased rapidly, and by 1903 it had become a scandal. I myself was still skeptical about any dope making a bad horse into a good one. Strange things occurred, however, and one constantly saw horses which were notorious rogues running as if they were possessed of the devil. Lambton continues, as these horses were mostly platers and run in low-class races, they did not attract a great deal of attention, but 3 veterinary surgeons told me that the practice was increasing greatly, that it would be the ruin of horse breeding, and that it ought to be stopped. Then there occurred a case when a horse, after winning a race, dashed madly into a stone wall and killed itself. I thought it was about time that something was done, so I told one of the stewards of the jockey club what the veterinary surgeon had said. He was as skeptical as I had been and declared he did not believe there was anything in it. At that time, I had in my stable some of the biggest rogues in training, and I told the stewards that I intended to dope these horses. They could then see for themselves what the result was. The first horse I doped was a chestnut gelding called Folkestone. This horse had refused to do anything in a trial or race. He was always last and would come in neighing. I first of all doped him in a trial. He fairly astonished me, for he jumped off in front and won in a canter. I sent him to Pontefract, where he beat a field of 14 easily and narrowly went around the course a second time before his jockey could pull him up. He won another race the next day, was sold, and never won again. Lambton continues, I obtained 6 dopes from a well-known veterinary surgeon, but were just given as a dose from a bottle. The effect on the horses was astounding. I used 5 of them and had 4 winners in a second. Not one of these horses had shown any form throughout the year. One of them, Roy Lopez, which had previously entirely defeated the efforts of some of the best jockeys in England, ran away with the Lincoln Autumn Handicap with a stable boy up, racing like the most honest horse in the world. At the end of that Liverpool Autumn meeting, I had 1 dope left. I had made no secret of what I was doing, and a friend of mine asked me to give him one of these dopes for a horse called Cheers, which had been a good one but had turned it up and run badly all the year. I gave him my last one, and the following week at Derby, he beat a big field for the Nuneaton plate with the dope inside him. Included in the runners was a horse of my own, Andrea Ferreira, which I greatly fancied. By the following year, doping was made a criminal offense to be punished by ruling off. Some people say there is a good deal of it going on now. I don't believe it, as the penalty is too severe, although it is possible there are some people who will take the risk. So essentially, George Lambton goes to the Jockey Club steward, says, look, I'm going to dope these horses. Let's see what happens. He doped 6 of them with 5 wins in 1 second. He's getting all these big form reversals. And then after seeing that, the Jockey Club takes action. Now, as far as American racing in this time goes, you see this here, a chemical genius. This was in the Daily Racing Form. Finally, some chemical genius who is responsible for almost as great an amount of mischief as the inventors of gunpowder and poison gas discovered and perfected the drug now popularly known as heroin. This is known to medicine as disotal morphia, and it has come to be probably the most widely used thing of its kind extant. Either in its free state or in combination with other ingredients, it is almost omnipresent among addicts. Of the equine addicts, this is especially true. Heroin is the one drug upon which all who administer dope to horses rely. The reason for this is that it has a powerful effect upon the respiratory system, which is so vitally a part of the racing mechanism. Heroin does marvels to the respiration of a horse, rendering it capable of efforts normally impossible. When these drugs first found their way to the racetrack, which was in Europe, anyway, those old-time horses were getting some help from heroin. And doping horses in American racing was a widespread practice. You see here in the old romances of chivalry, there occurs an episode that has taken infinite forms, but always has the same central theme. A wizard comes to the court of the king with the most magnificent mantle ever seen. He announces that he will make a gift of it to the fairest lady of the court, but it has a magic property making it impossible for any beauty who has also not lived a life of perfect chastity to keep it about her shoulders. The king immediately takes it from the wizard and throws it about the shoulders of the queen, but he has not the strength enough to keep it there, nor can her majesty, despite the most desperate efforts, succeed in doing so. Then one great noble after another essays to gain the magic mantle for his wife by putting her to the test. No one can stand it. Finally, a high and mighty lord, hot with shame and jealousy after his spouse has shared the general fate, draws his sword and attempts to cut down the wizard, but the man awhile simply vanishes into thin air, leaving behind him a demonic laughter and a series of domestic difficulties impossible of adjustment. If some such tests were applied to the trainers at some noted racetracks, it is probable that the result would not widely differ, for there are, to tell the simple truth, very few, however upright, that have not dabbled. So anyway, the belief certainly was that pretty much everyone in racing in America, had at least dabbled with the drugs. And like the real first superstar juicer of the early days of American racing was a trainer named Charles Boots Darnell. He won the 1904 Kentucky Derby with Elwood. Elwood was a Missouri bred that got beaten a $300 claiming race. Darnell got him to win the 1904 Kentucky Derby. He went on to be called the most ruled off man known to racing anywhere in the world, according to the New York Times. Charles Darnell was ruled off all tracks in America. He got ruled off in Europe. He was quite a wizard. After him, Guy Bedwell, who trained the first Triple Crown winner, Sir Barton, he was another absolute alchemist trainer. Bedwell once took a horse named Los Angelino, who he discovered in Mexico between the shafts of a milk wagon, and won multiple stakes races with him in Southern California. He also slipped up and told a newspaper man that he trains horses with arsenic. He says horses like men lose their vital forces through hard work, said Mr. Bedwell. In order to tone them up, I give them arsenic in small doses. It serves as a tonic for the blood, and with the blood in condition, my horses thrive and are able to race at their best speed. It wasn't very long after this article that Bedwell was ruled off. He was ruled off for administering cocaine to a horse, but it was only like a long suspension. He came back, and he came back to be a phenomenal trainer. He's actually in the Hall of Fame. If you ask any of the old-timers in New York, the trainer that they will always tell you was the biggest alchemist of all time was Oscar Barrera Sr. Oscar Barrera once took this horse, Shifty Chic. It says 3 weeks ago at Saratoga, a 5-year-old thoroughbred named Shifty Chic made his first start under the hot pink silks of Oscar S. Barrera. The owner and trainer had claimed Shifty Chic 5 days earlier for $35,000, buying him out of a race in which he finished a dull fourth behind other mediocre claimers. Shifty Chic was actually off the board in 3 straight claiming races before Oscar ran him for the first time. And after he claimed him, he ran him back in just 5 days. So just 5 days after running off the board in a third straight claiming race, he comes back, this time running for a tag of 47,500 and being asked to cover a mile and an eighth, a further distance than he'd ever won at. Shifty Chic rocketed out of the gate, opened up a 6-length lead, and stretched it into a breathtaking 12 3/4 length victory. The time was 1:47 2/5. Only 2/5 of a second off the Saratoga track record. So Oscar Barrera claimed Shifty Chic for $35,000. 5 days later, he runs off the screen, just 2/5 off the track record at Saratoga. Comes back a week later, wins an allowance race. Comes back another week later, wins an allowance race. Then Oscar runs him in a Grade 1, the Grade 1 Woodward against Slew of Gold. This confrontation with Slew of Gold coming less than 4 weeks after he was off the board in a claiming race.
There isn't any question in my mind that Slew of Gold and Fit to Fight are the most promising horses here. Plus the fact that one is worth about $40 million and the other $20. And the embarrassing thing would be if Shifty Chic, a $35,000 one, would beat him. But I don't think that will happen.
Used to drop back, gaining ground on the rail, Bounding Boss. Alongside Bounding Boss, Bet Big there at the top of the stretch. Shifty Chic, former claimer, has the lead by 2. Slew of Gold on the outside, second by about 2. Bet Big is in third by 2. Then Bounding Boss and Fit to Fight. Fit to Fight will not win this race. They passed the 8th pole. Now Slew of Gold gains on the outside of Shifty Chic, and they are heads apart. Bet Big on the rail in third. They're at the 16th pole. Slew of Gold on the outside, puts ahead in front. Shifty Chic is second. Bet Big is third. It's Slew of Gold in front. Angel Cordero Jr. on Slew of Gold, the winner by a...
So old Oscar Barrera there from New York, he definitely had a magical barn. He had a horse named Teriyaki Steak that won 6 different races in the same calendar month. But maybe the most amusing thing about Oscar Barrera, he got a bad drug test for prednisone, and after coming back from a long suspension, he saddled 130 straight losers. 130 losers in a row. And this was a guy who was leading trainer in New York several times. So whatever magic he had in the 1980s, it just vanished after his long suspension. Sometimes, in some cases, the key to being a great juice trainer is to have inside information on what drugs are not being tested. Take Stephanie Beatty, who is an unbelievable miracle worker in Pennsylvania. She testified that Brophy and other veterinarians informed her of which drugs the state testing lab was not testing for. This information allowed Steph Beatty to have unbelievable statistics, and her boyfriend David Wells also had unbelievable statistics. After she got busted, Stephanie Beatty went on to work for Pizza Hut and is actually a bartender in Florida now. And David Wells is a van driver. He hauls horses. Make no mistake, for the great juice trainers, it comes and goes. And take Norm McKnight here. Norm McKnight trained horses at Woodbine over the last 5 years. He was winning at 32% in sprint races, 252 ROI, and almost 900 starters. For whatever reason, Norm did not have the same magic with routers. And when he went route to sprint with horses, he won at 45% with a 410 ROI. In this stretch of training greatness, the people that would claim horses off of Norm had no luck at all. You see here, over the past 5 years, 83 horses have been claimed off of Norm McKnight. 71 of those have run back. Those horses are just 3 for 71 for the new trainer first off the claim. And none of the 3 winners went forward on buyer speed figures. So other trainers claimed 83 horses off of Norm McKnight over that stretch. Only 3 of them won, and all 3 of the ones that won ran a lower speed figure than they did in their last start for Norm. The latest and greatest attempt to crack down on drugs is HISA. And of course, all these HISA regulations, certainly does make it harder, but there's absolutely no way that they're going to stamp cheating out. You just can't. Some trainers have a way to move horses around and get horses off the grounds, and they could do stuff to get them to run. You can shockwave them as close as you want, and that's not going to show up on any test. And really, all you got to do is ask trainers if they think anyone's cheating today. They'll tell you there's still people cheating. All the testing in the world is not going to stop something that can beat a test and is undetectable. And as far as like the opinions of trainers go, they sometimes don't exactly always view the same guys that you think are cheating as the guys that they think are really cheating. You know, there'll be like certain guys that you could just see are pure magical. And, you know, trainers will give them a pass if they're also great horsemen and do a great job taking care of their horses. Whereas like the type of cheater that trainers bitch the most about is it's like a guy that, you know, doesn't take very good care of his horses and still wins at a big percentage. You know, you'll find yourself in an argument with a trainer over, like, who is the biggest cheater at the track, and, you know, you're sure it's one guy, and they'll tell you something like, oh, no, it's not him. It's this other guy. You know, I'm stabled next to this other guy, and he does a shitty job taking care of his horses, gives them one spin around, doesn't take good care of them. The horses look like shit. You'll hear him say stuff like, oh, I'm stabled next to him, and if I took care of my horses like that, I wouldn't win at 3%. And yet this guy's winning at over 25% here, and every time he ships to Saratoga, he wins. So anyway, with trainer opinions, a lot of times, you know, the guys that actually are great horsemen and do a great job taking care of horses get a little bit more of a pass. So as far as like trainer opinions go, the guys who are great horsemen and do take good care of their horses kind of get a little bit of a pass even when they obviously are cheating versus another guy who they think does not take good care of their horses and who think like, if I did that with my horses, I wouldn't win at 3%. And this guy's lighting it up, almost doing as good as the other guy. So in the trainer's mind, that's how they think. And as far as like what drug these great trainers were using, like take Oscar Barrera, for instance, who knows? I had an old-time trainer who told me that Oscar Barrera claimed a horse off of him, and he was like so happy he wanted to throw a party. And he said that Oscar got the horse to go right up the ladder, not like Shifty Chic up the ladder, but the horse won right back and went up the ladder. And he said, man, oh man, like the guy made me look bad, but still, I didn't even fucking care. If I'd have had this horse, I wouldn't have been able to do anything with it. I was just glad it got claimed off me. So like as far as what Oscar Barrera was using, who knows, but probably most likely it was something that was known to other trainers. I had one trainer tell me anyone can cheat, but you got to know how to use what you're using. And he said it's kind of like Mariano Rivera. There's a lot of guys that can throw a cut fastball, but he just knew how to throw it better, you know, and he'd come in and throw that same cut fastball over and over and over and no one could hit it. So by that account, if I believe what I was told there, you know, maybe it's just a case of he was using something that was known to other people. He just knew how to use it a little better. At the end of the day, you can make all the rules in the world and, you know, all the HISA regulations and whatever. But as a great writer once said, there's always going to be that submerged tenth. There's always going to be that submerged tenth, and they're going to find a way around it, and you can't stamp it out. And you could give these guys very long suspensions and keep them away for a very long time, but, you know, they're going to find their way back, and a lot of times you're going to find yourself betting on their horses.
Come back with this. Come back with Zadie Juice. Come back with Zadie Juice. Come back with Zadie Juice, you motherfucker. Get here with this for. This is monster. This is monster. Where the fuck is the wire? Fuck yeah.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it. They'll never be able to stamp it out. They could try as hard as they want. You're always going to have that submerged tenth, and no matter how hard you try, they're going to find a way. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.